this is a top to a, what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where two middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are talking about the 1984 mockumentary, or I guess rockumentary. This is Spinal Tap. Yeah, super excited to talk about this movie. It's just such a genre-defining sort of, feature that nobody had done anything like this, as far as I'm aware. Like, audience, if you know of like a mockumentary style film that came out before This Is Spinal Tap, let me know, because as far as I'm aware, this was kind of the start of this style of movie.
Yeah, I couldn't think of one earlier, and a lot of them have ended up coming from this kind of core crew that made Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So, this is just so original for the time and so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's even movies unrelated to this one, like Fear of a Black Hat, that is almost a shot-for-shot adaptation of This Is Spinal Tap, just using a hip-hop group instead of a heavy metal group. There's some things like that. And then obviously, the Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer, Michael McKean grouping ended up making so many movies: Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, For Your Consideration, A Mighty Wind. There's just so many fantastic movies that, like this one, this other thing we should mention, I don't know how many times this had happened before this movie as well. This is one of those movies where not every line was scripted ahead of time. They wrote the plot and they wrote the songs and they wrote sort of this scene will take place and this will happen in it, and this scene will take place and this will happen in it, and then the actors just riffed and they just sort of like went. And it's like, Adam McKay and Will Ferrell made careers out of doing this all throughout the early 2000s, but I don't know that this was super popular before Christopher Guest and crew really started doing this. So a lot of fun, very interesting stuff. This was my pick. My history with this one is really just, I think I saw it for the first time in high school. It would have been many, many years after it came out. The kind of thing that, somebody saw it because they had an older brother, older sister, saw it and told you that, whatever. And this was actually a thing where I was a theater kid. And so I actually saw Waiting for Guffman before I saw this movie. I saw that first and basically was like, oh, this is so funny. And somebody was like, yeah, it's the same, people like made this Spinal Tap. I'm like, what's that? So I was probably about 15 before I saw this movie for the first time in the mid 90s, but it was such an impact. And obviously again, because it just meant so much, to the world of comedy and kind of defined this genre. It really is an important movie, and I'm super fun, excited to talk about it. I think this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. And, on my end, I was telling you before the pod, I think I've only watched this movie one time before, and it would have been, probably like late high school or so. Yeah. But, I was aware, like, there's stuff we'll talk about that get in this movie, like it goes up to 11 and the drummer exploding, things that I was aware of. Cause I remember my dad telling me about this movie a bunch when I was a kid. This is my fucking poor man's VCR is just my dad telling me about a movie.
So it turns out Luke Skywalker's father was Darth Vader the whole time. I don't know. Your dad doesn't sound like that, I'm sure. Yeah.
He does when he's talking about movies. So that is correct. So I knew about a lot of the things from it. And I watched it then. I remember I liked it. And I have friends that are just so much into it. Yeah. And for whatever reason, like with Spaceballs several episodes ago, where I was seeing it for the first time, it just like didn't get into my rotation. Right. And then I was kind of like out of it by the time I finished college, and then nobody's showing each other videos anymore because we're all like, working and trying to not kill ourselves after the end of every day. So I didn't get into it, and I'm so excited that I watched it again. And I actually watched it twice leading up to this podcast because I felt like it gets better. Like you need to kind of settle into what it is. And the characters are so interesting that it just gets better if you allow yourself to be, to absorb it a little bit more.
Yeah. The movie really, it hits you so fast with such subtle humor at times. I mean, some of it's over the top. Like obviously not all of it's subtle. Some of it's very in your face, very big, humor, but some of it is super kind of under the radar, subtle kind of jokes and little throwaways and stuff that like it's easy to miss. And I think that, watching it, understanding, I think knowing what's about to come sometimes is much better for you in this movie.
Yes.
Because it's like you can prepare yourself for like coming up, David and Nigel are going to like rapid fire each other for a little bit. Pay close attention, you know what I mean? Because you can easily miss, a great little line here or there. So yeah, good stuff. Let's get into it. Let's get into the facts on This Is Spinal Tap. So this movie, This Is Spinal Tap, came out on March 2nd, 1984 with an R rating. It has a running time of 82 minutes. Might be the shortest movie we've done on the podcast at this point. Directed by Rob Reiner. Written by Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, and Rob Reiner. And of course, starring basically that same group of people. On Rotten Tomatoes, this received a score of 96%.
Amazing.
Very, very high.
I haven't double checked, but that's got to be our highest. I can't imagine anything
Fugitive
higher.
was over 90, I think. But yeah, this is very, very high. On IMDb, 7.9, which is like as you're approaching an 8, that is a huge score on IMDb. Anything over 7 is very good. So, that's big. It did win a couple of awards. They were kind of weird ones, like about DVD commentary and things like that. But one of the one I wanted to mention is that in 2002, it was actually added to the National Film Registry, which is basically the U.S. government's list of the important films of American history. And so this is Spinal Tap is among those movies. It's right there with Gone with the Wind and The Godfather and shit like that. So
very nice.
Very cool stuff. On a very modest budget of $2.5 million, it did earn just $5.8 million at the box office. Not much of a box office hit, although at 2.3 times the money it cost, it's fine. It was a success. It made people money. And it's not like it was a flop in any real sense of the word, just not a blockbuster. I didn't do enough research to look back at like, well, how many theaters was it released in? And, how quickly was it all about getting it onto VHS so that it could, be a part of the home video stuff, which was becoming big by the mid 80s. So, so those are the facts on This Is Spinal Tap.
All right.
Let's dive in. We open with an introduction from the film's director, sort of, right?
Yes.
Marty DeBurgi, played by Rob Reiner, is the fictional director of the fictional film This Is Spinal Tap inside the movie This Is Spinal Tap. So he basically Spinal Tap he tells us it is a huge heavy metal band from the UK, and they haven't toured the United States in I think 6 years, and they're now going on tour to support a new album. And he is a fan and wanted to make a documentary about them, and so that they allowed him to come along on tour with them and film and bring his crew and make this movie that we're all about to watch together. So for the rest of the film, Rob Reiner is playing the part of Marty DeBurgi, but of course Rob Reiner himself also directed the movie we're watching. Yeah. So there is a little bit of like a mirror inside a mirror thing going on here, a little weird. But yeah, so we get a little intro from him.
Right. And he comments that Spinal Tap was known for their exuberance, raw power, and punctuality. So, and I think that might be the first joke that happens in this movie.
Well, that or the hat that Rob Reiner is wearing, Marty DeBurgi is wearing, is like a USS Coral Sea, like Navy hat. I think it's a direct reference to the fact that Ron Howard, as a director, would always wear like a Navy cap. I don't know for sure that's the case, but Howard had a couple directing credits under his belt by the time this came out. So I think maybe that was Reiner, who obviously also would have been very familiar with Howard personally.
That's right.
The two of them, they were both in television around the same time and like directing movies around the same time. So they obviously knew each other. I think he was kind of maybe poking his buddy in the ribs a little bit. Not 100% sure on that, but.
And we saw a similar cap with our most recent episode, Secret of My Success. Right. Michael J. Fox's mailroom boss was rocking that style of cap.
The Navy hat. Yep. So cool. All right. So how do we here's the one I kind of want to mention.
Yeah,
I think
we can talk about how it's tough to talk about first.
Most of the time, if you've listened to any of our episodes, you know that we kind of walk through the movie. We comment on the scenes, going through it, but we're doing that pretty much by memory. We both have notes that we've taken, but otherwise it's like, we've seen the movies recently. Let's just talk about them. The plot of this movie is pretty shallow. The point of the movie is not the plot. This is a character play. This is a character-driven concept. It's a concept movie in the sense of like a concept album, right? Like it's all about its structure. And so we're going to do our best to continue to kind of walk right through it and point out the things that are funny, whatever. But really the movie is structured in a way that we see the band do one of their songs, like not even the whole song, but like a portion of one of their songs, like at one of their concerts. Then we'll see some scenes in between on tour where they're going from either show to show or they're hanging out at the hotel or whatever. Sometimes it'll be, Marty is interviewing them directly. Other times he's just kind of showing us them chatting with each other. And then we'll get to another song. And so it just kind of goes back and forth like in this way. And we'll get into the details, but the plot is not really the point. And so following it along like we often do with much more plot driven films that we cover might not work exactly the same, but let's go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. Well, I think so. The first thing we're kind of shown like a montage of just it's cutting between fans kind of giving the commentary of like, oh, I love Spinal Tap. They're my favorite band. And then Spinal Tap themselves walking in and then cutting to some concert footage and to some roadies loading, speakers on the truck and everything. And then they're on stage. And it starts just with one of their songs. And is this the Big Bottom song? What's the first song?
Big Bottom's later. I can't remember the first one they do.
It was a good song though. It was like a decent, like kind of Kiss style song.
All the songs are pretty good.
That's one thing about this movie, since we're going to be kind of jumping around, is the key to making this type of comedy work, especially if it involves like parody songs or things like that, is the songs have to be good on their own.
Yes.
Like it's not funny if you're just rhyming the obvious thing. And that's why so many people stereotype like guitar comedy as something that sucks or whatever. Cause there's cheap shortcuts to jokes just by like rhyming words or whatever. But the fact that this is a real production taken seriously by musicians who actually cared about the kind of music they were making and wanted it to be a funny but good version of what they were making, like really shines through in this.
It reminds me of something, just as an aside. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was an Aaron Sorkin show, very short-lived, maybe 2 seasons, maybe just one actually. Matthew Perry was in it. It was about a Saturday Night Live type show and the inner workings on that. I mean, that's kind of Sorkin is always about, there's this thing now I'm going to show you how they make that thing, whether it's the White House or it's Sports Night, whatever. So this was how he did this show, and it didn't work. And unlike a lot of his work, it just didn't work. And it was kind of hard to tell initially until I read something that somebody pointed out. Like the problem is the show within the show wasn't funny. So when they would show you sketches that these supposedly the funniest actors in this universe of this show have created these sketches, and they're hilarious and they're edgy and they're getting in trouble with the network, none of it was funny enough. And that's, I think, a really good point. And I think you're right. The songs in This Is Spinal Tap are good enough. They are obviously inspired by Queen and Kiss and Boston.
Little Jethro Tull, the Stonehenge song.
The Stonehenge thing, they're not heavy metal like 80s heavy metal. Like they're not Slayer, they're not Anthrax or Megadeth or Metallica. They're nothing like that.
But they're the exact type of band that would call themselves heavy metal a lot.
Yes, exactly. But they are big hair and eyeliner 70s arena rock metal. Like that's sort of the style that they are. Actually, I listened for whatever reason on the way here today to a couple of songs by Boston, including Rock and Roll Band. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, this sounds like a song Spinal Tap would have done.
Oh
like,
yeah.
We were getting real big. We were getting good. Like all this kind of stuff. Everybody's listening to us. Like, but anyway, so they do their first song. But really, I think the kind of first scene we really start to get to know these people is they're sitting in like a garden somewhere, and Marty's interviewing them, and they're telling us about their history. And it's like Nigel Tufnell, played by Christopher Guest, and David St. Hubbins, played by Michael McKean, are sort of the ringleaders. They're your John and Paul, right? That's kind of, there's a lot of Beatles, corollaries here as well. And then Harry Shearer, who plays, I think was it Derek Smalls. Yeah, he's the bassist and the kind of the third member, but Nigel and David are the ones really kind of telling us the story of how they got together and like when they did. And I loved it. They originally called themselves the Originals, but then it turns out another band was called the Originals, so they needed to change the name, so they called themselves the New Originals.
So good.
Then that Originals ended up calling themselves the Regulars, and they thought to themselves, well, we could go back to being the Originals, but that might get confusing. So I don't think they did. But yeah, and then
they're talking about their drummers.
Yeah, we get the first like look into this weird history of their drummers.
Yeah.
And I love the first drummer they show us, which, by the way, they're clearly a sort of Beatles, Herman's Hermits, Monkees, early to mid 60s Britpop band to begin with.
This is a fun thing about this movie is that they're not, Spinal Tap is not like a current new band. So they're a band who's gone through all these iterations that have gone in line with like the popular music at the time. So they get some good material out of them in their Beatles phase and them in their like late 60s hippie rock kind of phase and stuff like that. So
they've been around for like 20 years at this point, basically. This is like a comeback tour, right? They were big in the sort of early to mid 70s as Spinal Tap, or maybe even late 70s, but now they're trying to come back with a new album and a new tour. That's kind of the whole idea.
Yep.
So we learned a little bit about their drummer. So I love it that the drummer is an actor who would show up in a lot of these movies with Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer later. Ed Begley Jr. actually plays the original drummer. I didn't catch the name because all the names were super similar to each other, like Stumpy and Stimpy, all these different names. But he dies a bizarre gardening accident. Kills the first drummer. The second drummer died.
And when he talks about that, they said, the police said, it's better just leave this one unsolved.
The authorities said, just leave this one alone. It's so terrifying in so many ways. And then the second drummer choked on vomit. And then they make it clear that it was someone else's vomit, but they couldn't tell who because you can't fingerprint vomit.
Yeah. You really can't dust for vomit.
That's what it was. Can't dust for vomit, which it's like today you probably, DNA and stuff, but yeah, so they've had at least 2, we learn, drummers die from mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We get a couple other characters there. I think it's like a, I don't know, pre-release party or something like that for
like
the
a tour
record label.
And,
right.
The record label's hosting
Kicking
the tour
the tour
kickoff
off
in New York City.
And I'm going to bring it up again, but one of my favorite movies, which is also a rockumentary type, which I think is the most well done one other than this, is Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping.
So good.
Directed by the great Akiva Schaffer, who I think will be proven by history to be like one of the better comedy directors
maybe
we have.
Maybe the best exennial comedy director when all said and done.
But it was funny watching this movie, having not been super familiar with it and being like, oh, like it's hitting, Pop Star hits all these same beats and stuff, and it just works so well.
Yep.
So we meet a couple of characters. We have Bobby Fleckman, who's played by Fran Drescher.
Yeah.
She's kind of like their, I don't know, manager type.
She's A&R, she's like artist relations, basically. Okay. Yeah, from the record label.
It doesn't really show this guy too much, but I do love the name, that the guy's name is Sir Dennis Eaton Hogg.
He's eating hog.
I love Eaton Hogg.
Sir Eaton Hogg to you, yeah. I also love in this scene, there's a mime waiter. There's a waiter. Did you notice who played the mime waiter out in the party? The one that doesn't ever talk?
So I didn't notice the first time, but I did the second time.
Right, it's Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey, yeah.
And then he goes and nobody wants to eat the mime waiter's food off his platter. So we see him backstage or, like in like the kitchen, and his mime waiter boss is like, no, you got to push these. You got to get them. And that is Billy Crystal.
Yep.
So it's like already we're hit with these like incredibly good actors who are just in moments of this film. Ed Begley Jr., Dana Carvey, Billy Crystal, they all are in just seconds of this movie, and then they're done, and that's fantastic.
They end up going down into their limo after this party.
Right.
So they're being taken in the limo, and the limo driver played by the great Bruno Kirby.
I love Bruno
who's
Kirby.
He's in so much. That guy can do a ton. And somebody in the limo is reading a copy. Is it Fran Drescher's character reading a copy of like Sammy Davis Jr.'s biography? And then the limo driver is just like only wants to talk to them about Frank Sinatra. He's like, hey, what Frank used to do, and they try to put the glass up on him, and Rob Reiner's in the front seat with him. He's like, oh, can you believe how rude it is? But
I don't want to tell them, but this is a fad.
That must have been such a thing in the early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Just guys that would only talk about how, there's still people like that. But the Frank Sinatra obsession then must have been mind blowing.
Oh God, seriously. Yeah. Boomers loved Frank. I mean, not that I love Frank too. A little fun fact, I actually share a birthday, obviously not year, with Frank Sinatra. So I learned at an early age, like, hey, like that's an interesting person who I have obviously tenuous connection to. Let me look into it.
Yeah.
And I liked Frank's music a lot. He was obviously a complete piece of shit, like an absolute horrible human being, but good music.
Yeah.
And people like Bruno Kirby's character here, like, just you could do no wrong. I feel like Frankie Valli had similar sycophants as well. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff.
Well, especially if there was like kind of like an ethnic connection to it, the way that like Italian people would associate themselves so much with Sinatra. Absolutely. Like, hey, he's one of us,
Yeah, for sure.
So that scene was funny, and I think Bruno Kirby's not really in it too much other than that.
He's that
so
scene,
it's just
and
like,
that's it. Again, but he at least gets, a few lines. He gets, 30, 40 seconds of screen dialogue versus like Billy Crystal and Dana Carvey and Ed Begley Jr., who most of them don't say anything. But yeah, he gets a little time here. We hear from a very funny scene with him. I think the next thing we cut to is another show. They're at another concert.
And
right?
this is the Big Bottom song.
And so this is, I love two things about this. One, this is Derek Smalls with his enormous necked bass. He's got the double bass that he never plays the lower half of, but it looks freaking cool.
Hell
right?
yeah.
And then Big Bottom is maybe the best song in the movie. It's possible.
Pretty good one.
It's a very good song, very funny, very vulgar. Probably a significant portion of the R rating that this earned was.
I was laughing a lot, like the lyrics in this song. It was good.
Anything about a pink torpedo, but
yeah. Oh my God.
But it's also like clearly a Queen sort of ripoff, right? This is a Fat Bottom Girls, right? I feel like all of the songs they do, you could kind of tie, this is the real band that this is sort of pulling
that's a good
from. Like you
point.
mentioned, the first one really had a very big Kiss influence.
Yep.
And then this song obviously is a very big Queen influence. And, there's a few others like that. But yeah, fantastic, very funny song.
When he had the, Nigel, I think, was in the middle, and David and Derek are on either side of him, and he's like turned around and they're like smacking his butt with the necks of their guitar during the song. That was really funny.
Yes.
So they find out that they're kind of getting bad reviews here on the new album,
right?
And the shows are a little more tenuous and everything. And one of the shows gets canceled. I like the manager character. Ian is very funny in this. And he says, the Boston show got canceled.
Don't worry about it.
And he says, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not a big college town.
I called that line out as well in my notes because in case listener, you're not aware, there are more colleges in Boston than in any other city in the United States of America. Like it is literally the college town of the United States. And so to make that reference is very funny.
The joke they make there is, hey, they opened a Dunkin' Donuts across the street and it has a college inside of it. Really, really funny reference there. Okay. I think this is a time to kind of go a little sideways and talk about it because it relates to this scene. So they're kind of back to an outdoor interview, or they're like in a restaurant of some sort, and it's Nigel and it's
David, right?
David, right, and the director's speaking to them, and they're kind of talking about one of their early songs. They're talking that cry all the way home, and they both like kind of go into it, and it's not like a joke song. It's just kind of like a sweet moment. Like the characters are really well done in this movie, where they're not like throwaway. You understand like these guys have a real like history and bond and friendship and stuff. But during this scene, and I noticed this the first time watching this, they have to be a couple of the best I've ever seen of American actors doing British accents. Yeah. And especially in this scene, because they kind of sing, they do the U2 thing where they sing like with an American affect or an accentless, whatever they call that. Yeah. And they're going back and forth between singing this song and talking about it seamlessly. And it's just like, dude, the difficulty of that as an actor where you can't just be like, I'm in British guy mode, I'm in American guy mode, I thought was so impressive.
Absolutely. And I think that this is really part and parcel with the way this movie is structured and the way that it's written, where, it's not about like memorizing these lines and understanding your character's motivation for saying this and for being here, whatever. It's like, hey, Christopher, Michael, this next scene we're going to do, you two are going to reminisce about a song or whatever, right? That song probably wasn't written at the time the movie was written, so they had to get together and come up with that song. Yeah. And I think that there's an element of needing to understand these characters much more deeply in order to be able to improv as them. And I think that that's kind of like a big piece of it, because, it's one thing to like make up a scene and improv a character, on the fly and like do whatever. And that's funny and great and whatever. There's like improv is fine. But to do this where it's like, no, you're maintaining this character. This character has to be a real feeling, living character that has a history and has desires and has fears and whatever else. And you got to maintain that all the way through while inventing, speaking as him.
Yeah. Right? You're improving within the restraints of the character.
Exactly.
As opposed to just freely associating with whatever.
Or being given everything to say. Right. Either one of those is like a much easier kind of, task at hand. And I feel like this really is indicative of the acting chops of these actors. And I think that really bears out all throughout, the movies that they would end up coming later, and all the people from this movie they brought back in those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Ed Begley Jr., Fred Willard shows up later. He's in a lot of those. All these guys, Parker Posey ends up in almost every one of these movies later on with Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, people like this who are just, really probably underrated actors, really, and to be able to do this and live in these characters enough to make us believe this. It's very like Daniel Day-Lewis does with his really crazy method acting and the absolute transformation that he does, but with that added level of, and no, you don't get to know what to say. You have to come up with what to say. It's really impressive. So next scene, I think, is they're at another like party or like hotel room in between two gigs, and they're like talking about the album, and they're talking about the album cover, and that the record label does not like the album cover. I'll note at this point, at least Nigel and David, maybe Nigel, David, and Derek all have cold sores on their lips.
The most comedically exaggerated cold sores.
So gross.
I mean, they need like one of those fire suppression helicopters to airdrop Carmex on their lips for any chance of getting those things to go away.
And they don't mention them. There's no reference to them. They're gone in the next scene, and they never come back. It is just there for a moment. It's like, did they both make out with the same chick? Like what is this referencing? We don't get to actually know the details, but it's at least Nigel and David, and I think Derek might have has had one as well. But very, very funny. So
the album cover basically is being described to us as saying, this, we think the album cover is sexist. The label doesn't like it. It's a woman with a dog leash around her neck, and there's a guy like basically with holding a gloved hand in front of her face, or just a loose glove,
something. It's a
whatever
smell
it's
the
called,
glove.
smell the glove. And but when she says the label doesn't, Fran Drescher's character says the label doesn't like the album being sexist, and Nigel says, "Sexy? What's wrong with it being sexy?
Well, what's wrong with that? It's good to be sexy, isn't it? Sexist, Nigel."
Like Michael Scott saying, "Monkey problems? I don't have any monkey problems." So they don't like the cover, and this thing is like so close to coming out that's like. Now is when
like it's been recorded.
This is happening.
They're playing the songs on tour. I mean, the tour is ostensibly, to support the album. And we learn, early on in the sequence here that the album's actually not available for sale yet. It sounds like they've got something they're playing on radio. They've given some radio stations like one of the songs or something, but they're not selling the record because it's not out. And yet here they are trying to support it. It's very backwards in that sense, right? The album should already be out. They should be selling it at the shows. They should be doing all this stuff. And so they're all kind of worried. They're like, we don't have the record yet. And now we're talking about changing the cover. Like that's crazy. So then we move on to the next show, and we're backstage in like the green room with Nigel, and he's talking to Ian, the manager, and he's got a problem with craft services. He's got a problem with the food being offered, and there's these little tiny like it's like rye bread or some kind of like dark wheat bread, little tiny things, and then like normal size pieces of deli meat, and I'm like. Initially, I'm thinking to myself like, oh man, Nigel's right. That's kind of crappy. The bread should be bigger. This is crazy. But then the very simple explanation, or, like workarounds he's being offered, like, hey, just fold the meat. He goes, no, you can't do that because
when you fold it again, it
and
breaks.
You roll it. You see, it doesn't work. You can't do that. Like, and he's just like, so like, it's like malicious compliance and like forced like stupidity on himself.
Yes.
And he's just like, oh, it doesn't work. I don't like that. No.
It was just such a funny way to show like the unreasonableness of a celebrity in certain situations. And it panned over to some of his other food. First of all, Nigel kept like extinguishing his cigarette butts right in the middle of his craft service trays. But some of the other stuff he had was just a tray of Oreos that were all pulled in half.
What was
like just
that?
half
with like most of the cream gone. Like it's just the cookies. It's like the worst part of the Oreo, brother. Like
the folding the bread was really funny. I have this miniature bread. But Nigel's great. That's a really funny character. And the way Christopher Guest plays it, I don't know if it's to help him keep the accent or keep the character, but it's like he somehow was able to disengage his jaw by like 20%. It just hangs a little bit in the funniest way during the entire movie.
It's also because he's chewing gum almost the entire time as well. Anytime he's not actually eating something, he's like chomping on a piece of gum. And so I think that's part of it too, is that, the gum, he can kind of go I know y'all love hearing mouth sounds, but like kind of like, drop your jaw a little and you kind of look surprised, and it's just like, there's something about it that you're right, that he does that through the whole thing. And so Ian is concerned, like, I don't let this ruin your performance. He goes, oh, I won't, I'm a professional. It'd be all right, whatever. And they go out and they do Hellhole, which is actually another really great song.
It's a good one.
Got kind of an AC/DC feel to it a little bit, it's got that style, and it's got Nigel jamming out on the guitar and like pointing
Derek's
it at everyone.
Ridiculous hog, like it shows in his pants. It goes like all the way down to his knee, on the tight pants. This scene is funny, and Nigel does one of those guitar solos where he like keeps leaning back. And then he's unable to get up, so the stagehand has to like stand him back
but like
up.
Turns him around a few times for like no good reason as he's like trying to find his footing or something.
They need better stagehands. That guy was not a problem solver in this.
Oh my god, so good. And so all right, so then the next thing that happens is we are back. Marty is interviewing Nigel. We're in Nigel's studio. Probably one of the most famous scenes in the movie.
For sure, yeah.
Right. So he's got 40 or 50 guitars all over the place. And so Marty starts with like, oh, do you play all of these? And he's kind of like, oh yeah, I've played them all. But of course there's one later he shows, it's like, oh, you can't touch that. And he's like, well, I wasn't going to touch it. Don't even point at it. Yeah. Don't even look at it. Like, it's very, very special. But all these guitars, but he's kind of showing the different guitars he has, and some are really cool and everything. And then he goes over to his amp.
Yes.
Right. And this is the part that everybody, even if you haven't seen this movie, this part. And he says, these are really special, Marty, and he's like, if you're at 10, you're jamming, he's like going on like, where do you go from there? You can't go. And Marty's like, I don't know. Where do you go? He's like, no, you can't go anywhere. These go to 11. And sure enough, all the little dials have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. All of them have it. And Marty asks very reasonably, why don't you just make 10 louder and have that be the highest?
He's like,
these go to
11.
And I love it.
It's one louder.
He doesn't even say like, no, you don't understand. These go to 11. It's that Nigel clearly doesn't understand. He goes, right. What are you talking about? Like, these go to 11, dude. Like, doesn't matter how loud 10 is. These go to 11.
Right. It's kind of like a Brondo, but it's what plants crave.
It got electrolytes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Really funny scene. Yeah. And man, I mean, has that stuck more than almost anything from the movies we've done so far, as far as just like, you can know about the goes to 11 thing. Like the Sports Center anchors will talk about that and stuff. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah. I think these go to 11 exists on its own in, pop culture and in the zeitgeist as just like referencing something like needlessly bigger, better, louder, whatever.
Yes.
Right. And it's its own thing. And plenty of people know that reference, or know what that means when they hear it, and don't have any idea about This Is Spinal Tap or like where it came from. And that's fine. But it has really taken on a life of its own. I think you're right. Probably more than any of the, you can say, maybe I'll Be Back from Terminator or something like that. But like really, These Go to 11 is like, it's the whole joke in what is that? 4 words.
Yeah.
Right. It's the whole joke. And
for sure.
On its own.
That summarizes like the whole thing. A really funny piece of merch would be a Spinal Tap ruler that goes to 11. Only an 11-inch ruler that's Spinal Tap, and they're bragging about how it goes to 11.
It's got to be a 12-inch ruler that only goes to 11. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
It's like every inch has to be 1.09 inches long.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
So it ends at 11.
Yeah, this was a good aside of like the Nigel's station, and now we're back kind of at the hotel. They're trying to check into the hotel. Right. And the guy at the front desk of the hotel is like, hey, we've made a minor mistake. You requested 7 suites, but what we have for you is 1 suite on the 7th floor.
It's a very large suite. It's a king efficiency suite or something like that. Which is like, oh my God.
So they're dealing with this and trying to get it figured out. So they're kind of standing around the lobby of the hotel with the manager. And then this other artist with his manager comes through. I didn't catch the name of who it was.
Like
just someone who's supposed to be like another famous musician. Yep. And their manager is kind of like just trying to ditch Spinal Tap very quick. And Ian comes in. He's like, oh, hey, man, good to see you. The manager of this other musician says, hey, I'd love to stand around and chat, but we got to go sit around and wait for our room in the lobby.
we got to go sit in the lobby, wait for the limo. Like they just need to catch a car. That's all they need to do. But he's like, I don't fucking want to be here with you guys to do that. So we're going to go over here.
God, would it be nice to have one of those guys in life just to like disperse any kind of social situation you don't want to be a part of?
Exactly. Yeah. So and of course, as soon as the other artist walks away, all the boys in Spinal Tap are talking shit. They're just like, oh, I hate that fucking guy. Like, they're really going at him. And, but then they're saying like, oh, but his album cover is like super sexist. Why was that okay? Like he's he's like number 2 in the country or something. And it's like him on like a table and he's like mostly naked. And then there's like women grabbing at him and all this stuff. And Ian's like, well, yeah, but see, he's the victim. So it's okay if he's the victim. With yours, it's she's the victim, and that's why it's a problem. And I think it's Nigel has a line. He goes, it really is such a fine line between clever and stupid. Isn't it? Yeah.
That guy's getting Michael J. Foxed on his album cover.
Exactly.
So their show, they find out then that their show is canceled.
Another canceled gig. Yeah, exactly. And they're like in New Hampshire or something, right? Like, there's not like a lot of places around to like just go do another show. So moving on. Yeah.
There's a scene where Ian is talking to the director and he has that cricket bat on his desk. He's asking him, what's this for? And he's like, oh, kind of like a totem, like the conch in, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. But then he's, but there are other uses for it. And it just kind of cuts to him just enraged, like smashing a coffee table and smashing a TV and just destroying shit.
Everything off a desk with it. Like,
that would feel so good to do.
Yeah. And then, so now they're in another hotel room. I think that not the one they were going to stay in, obviously, but maybe it is. Maybe it's supposed to be that one suite they got, but they're in a hotel room and they're hanging out and they go, Harry Shearer, Derek walks in to Nigel and David and is like, hey, you guys, you gotta come hear this. Like come listen. And they're playing, like an old song, like from Spinal Tap or whatever, on the radio, or, you don't even know if it was one of the Spinal Tap songs or one of their earlier iterations, but basically they're all sitting around listening. And then the radio DJ comes on and is basically like, that was Spinal Tap. They're in the Where Are They Now file.
Whatever happened to those guys?
Voice of Harry Shearer, by the way. Not sure if you picked that out, nice. But the radio announcer was Harry Shearer doing that voice.
Is Harry Shearer Handsome Dan in the Wayne's World movie?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Yes.
So I was trying to place him
also,
there.
half the voices on The Simpsons, right? So
yes, yes, absolutely.
Anything Hank Azaria doesn't do that isn't one of the Simpsons family, it's pretty much all Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer for like the rest of the voices.
So they're in Tennessee, and they visit Elvis's grave.
Oh right, yeah.
And there's the Derek and David and Nigel standing there at Elvis's grave, and they're trying to sing Heartbreak Hotel and singing it in the weirdest way. It's, I mean, that's where the kind of improv really shines through. The fact that these guys all kind of know what the other one's doing, because to do a musical improv bit has to be hard because it can't sound so offensive to your ears that you can't watch it, right? So there has to be some part of it where they're really trying to sing, but then screwing it up in a very like weird way that makes the song like, what are you doing here?
I think there's like a fun level of singing ability that this works well for, and I'll be honest, I think I have it, which is like I can carry a tune, but I don't know keys. I can't read music. Don't ask me to like find the harmony with what you're doing. None of that's going to work, but I can like kind of carry a tune if I can like karaoke something, whatever. So it's like that kind of thing where it's like, I don't sound like a screeching cat, so it's not going to be like unlistenable. But if we're trying to like harmonize, it's going to be bad. You're going to have, and all it takes is one person in the group doing it who knows how to call out that person's right. Okay, you're flat, dude. Like you got to stop. Up here, or whatever. And it's like, I'll try, but fuck, like I don't know what I'm doing, And it makes for a very funny thing, especially given that these are ostensibly professional singers, doing this. But they cannot figure out Heartbreak Hotel. It's much too complicated a harmony for them, it seems.
Yeah, that was good, and we get kind of a little flashback of them in another iteration. I think it's back to kind of the garden interview. And they're talking about the flower people. Like that was one of the iterations of the band, I guess. Very, very and really like, incense and peppermint style. You know. And that was a drummer. They were talking about their drummer at that time who spontaneously combusted.
Like spontaneously exploded on stage or whatever. And it's actually very, very common. People don't talk about how often spontaneous explosion really happens. They say, it's like it's not talked about, but it's really common. A new member is brought into the ensemble here as David St. Hubbin's girlfriend Janine shows up. We're now in Milwaukee, and Janine has come to join them on tour. When David first told Nigel, hey, Janine's coming, he's kind of like,
just coming to drop something off, then leave.
And then leaving, please. Oh, no. She's going to tour with us. She's going to come, she's going to come on the road with us. And Nigel clearly is not, into it. And it shouldn't be hard to pick up what they're referencing here. This is a Yoko Ono type situation. David is John, Nigel is Paul, which actually kind of works in my opinion in other ways as well. But yeah, so Janine actually shows up while they're doing a sound check ahead of their show in Milwaukee. And, David's excited to see her or whatever. But as he runs off to go hug Janine hello, Ian walks in with a box full of records. And he's like, the album's here. The album came. And so they pull it out and it's all black. And this actually, we didn't mention it, but this references when Fran Drescher's character was first complaining to Ian about the sexist cover, she said, like, I don't think that the cover has to be sexy to sell. I mean, look at the White Album. That was just white and it sold, tens of millions of copies. Like it's whatever. There was nothing sexy about it. So it looks like they're trying to do that.
Right. Years,
of course, before either Metallica or Jay-Z would do basically the same thing with a couple of their albums. But this is the problem with this one is, it's literally just all black. There's no writing on the spine. There's no sticker. There's no word anywhere that says anything about. Now, I'm assuming if you pulled the LP out, right, that little label in the middle hopefully actually says Spinal Tap and Smell the Glove or whatever the hell. But yeah, they are all pretty nonplussed about it. They're not pleased. It's like, what is this? This is just black.
Yeah.
And it's at one point, I think it's how much more black could it get? And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, no, none more black, right? None more black. Is what the answer is none more black. But yeah,
the next concert scene we have, they're all on stage there and they're in these kind of like, I don't know, alien
like
cocoon pod looking things. Right. And David's opens and he steps out and he's playing guitar, and then Nigel's opens and he steps out and he's playing, and then Derek's still cruising and you see him playing bass in there and kind of like it's not opening. And this leads to an incredibly great concert scene because they're still rolling with the song.
They're just going along with it. He's still playing.
And David is still playing, but then he's kind of like struggling a little more. He's like, okay, I'm going to play and then try to get out a little and play it. And they have a stagehand who's there trying to like hit it with a hammer.
Well, he just tries to pull it open at one point. Right. He tries to plug it in, unplug it, like see if it's like a power thing. He tries to pry it open. He can't. He starts hitting it with a hammer, which is loud as hell. And David and Nigel both like notice. They're trying to play their songs.
Because it's not showing them at the time he's hitting with the hammer. And it almost sounds like there's a really weird drum thing going on. And then they look over and you see him boom, boom, boom. He tries to fashion a blowtorch and blast it open.
Oh my God. And then it finally does open, but the whole plan apparently was that at the end of the song, they would all climb back into their cocoons and they would close. So as David and Nigel are being closed back up in theirs, Derek's opens, he steps out, recognizes what's happening, turns around to try to go back, and it just closes on his arm and he can't even get back in. Oh my God. That's so funny.
They don't give Derek a lot to say, but he really has some moments in this one.
Yes.
Let's see here. Okay, so...
Oh, by the way, the song they were doing that was Rock and Roll Creation, which was from whatever album of theirs was considered sacrilegious. That was the name of the song they were doing.
Because they were showing some of the covers and like why they had issues with the albums.
And so that one was Rock and Roll Creation. The next one, I think we're back to just Nigel and Marty chatting. Nigel's sitting at a piano. And Marty is chatting with him a little bit and he's talking about his influences. And I love it. He goes, I'm very influenced by Mozart and Bach. Together, it's sort of a mock thing, and it's like, all right, I get it. And he plays the song. It's very pretty. He's playing this very pretty thing on the piano. And, and he's just like talking about his process. And then Marty goes, so what do you call that? And he goes, that one's called Lick My Love Pump.
I love that joke. So and it just, something's coming, right? Mm-hmm. It's just too long of a serious moment.
Right. And too tender. The music's too light. Oh. Yeah.
And that one really hits. And, piano does sound great. I mean, Christopher Guest, good musician. There was something real quick before then where they were kind of hanging out in the tour bus.
Okay. Oh,
and Janine, David's girlfriend, David's girlfriend, she had made him some kind of like homemade sweater that has like planets and stars on it. It looks like a little kid's space sweater, like Danny Torrance's Apollo 11 sweater from The Shining. Yeah. And he's just kind of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't wear it till you're fully done with it. You know,
This is full on Ralphie in the pink bunny suit, like for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah,
totally.
But he just wants to go back and play the game, and I love it too because they've got this video game on the tour bus, but it's like, it's not an Atari or a Nintendo. It's like an old a Commodore or something. It's like a computer, right? He's playing like Missile Command or something, but like with the keyboard. It's all very old school, but very cool. And he wants to go back, and he's already got a new game. I want to go play the game, And she's like, "What are you talking about? Like that's a child's toy." Yeah.
They're going through security at the airport, I think, is the next significant thing.
Is it the airport? Or is it one of the venues?
Or wherever they're at. They're going through a metal detector.
That's right. Yes, through a metal detector.
And Derek goes through there,
right.
And the first to say, "Oh, well, you got to take the metal out of your pocket." He's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh.
It takes out, change. Oh, I got a tuning fork. A musician, got to stay in tune.
Ton of stuff. Yeah.
So goes back out, walks through again. Still going off. Oh, maybe it's the zipper on my jacket.
Yeah, must be.
So they end up wanding him, and it's right in his bulge is going off, and the lady's kind of horrified, looking at him like, "Sir, do you have any plates or prosthetic limbs?" And he ends up pulling out this giant cucumber wrapped in tin foil.
Why was it wrapped in tin foil?
I don't know.
I just to keep it in place better or something. Like I don't know why. Like, you could have gotten away with it. It was just a cucumber, Derek.
Yeah, or saran wrap. I mean, if let's say you want it to rot slower, you don't want your cucumber budget to be off the charts.
That's fair.
But yeah, it was funny too how he just like takes it out, leaves it, and walks away.
Yeah, for sure.
So good old Derek.
So now we see that was fake. I think at some point in here we also get to we meet a new character, Artie Fufkin, for a brief period of time, played by Paul Schaefer.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Real quick here, because
yeah.
I did have a question for you. So they're in the Artie Fufkin scene.
Yeah.
It shows, I think, outside the hotel that they're staying at.
Okay.
And it's like, welcoming the National Company of The Wiz and Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And then they get, and The Wiz obviously is kind of like all black remake of Wizard of Oz, like very popular at that time. They get room service in the room, and the guy comes in and like looks around the room, and I forget his exact line, but he's like, "Oh, finally some like normal people or whatever." I was like, "Is that a racist?"
I didn't catch that.
"Oh, this is the only room full of white people I've delivered to."
Oh my god!
I wasn't sure about that, so I want to revisit that because I do say, and I'll bring up some example later, but not a lot of racism in this movie for being a 1984 comedy.
Right, but also not a lot of non-white people. Like,
sure. Yeah.
To be fair. Like, very, very few. I think, again, the
but there's
woman,
no long duck dong or anything like that.
The security guard wanding Derek, there was a black woman, but like, there's not a whole lot of non-white folks in the movie.
That's very true.
With. So, but you're right, nothing overt. And I guess the point is like nothing, it didn't seem like any of the really common casual racism that you had in movies of the era, especially anti-Asian racism was super common because it kind of, for whatever reason at the time, was not viewed as bad as racism against black
they're
folks.
The okay target.
Yeah, which is disgusting, obviously. But yeah, really none of that here. I mean, outside of the fact that it's a very whitewash type cast, but it's also about a group of UK heavy metal musicians, not likely to be non-white, frankly, at least not at that time. And but yeah, that's an interesting call out. But I didn't catch that thing. I'll have to go back and watch that scene again.
Let me know what you think.
I must have skipped past me. Sometimes I write notes without pausing, and I realize I should pause every time I write a note because I might miss something. But yeah, so we meet Artie Fufkin, played by Paul Schaefer, and he's there to help them promote in Chicago. I think he's another A&R. He's like the Fran Drescher character, same role, but she's in New York, he's in Chicago. I think that's the kind of thing. He works for the record label. He's got them going to a record store to sign autographs.
Yep.
And they go, and there's nobody there. They're just sitting there by themselves. Behind them is their all black LP, cover with nothing on it. But there's nobody coming, and Artie's arguing.
Not even a normal level of customers in that store.
There's nobody in the store. And Artie's talking to the manager of the record store and is like, "What are you doing to me? I thought we had a relationship. This is like, what are you doing? Like, there's nobody here." And he goes, "I'm telling you, Artie, it's been slow. Like, it's a bad economy." I think the early 80s were the movie, by the way, we should say, the movie came out in 84. The documentary, the tour takes place in 82. Okay. So something just to mention. But yeah, so like 1982, that was a bit of a rough time, for a lot of people economically in the United States, and especially in cities. And so, that makes sense. But, he basically, Artie is like, "This was my fault, guys. This was my fault. It was all me. I want you to do something for me. I want you to kick me right in the ass." He was like, bends over. He's like, "Kick my ass. You got to kick my ass."
Kick my ass. Paul Schaefer is funny. He doesn't get a ton of acting appearances, but in this era, he dropped in a couple things.
A couple things. He was also in one episode of Schitt's Creek, which is always something I love referencing on our podcast here. But yeah,
nice.
As himself, by the way.
Oh, this is really funny. So I think were they Cleveland or something like that, and they're in the green room, and the concert's about to start, and you hear the crowd like, rah, rah. They're all ready for them to come out. And they're getting pumped up, and they get up, and they're like, all right, let's go. Rock and roll. Here we go. Going down the hall. All right. Hey. Oh,
hello, Cleveland.
Turning this way and that, like clearly lost, like trying to walk to the stage. At some point, they encounter it's like the boiler room area. You know, there's a guy just wrenching on something that has steam blowing out of
Maintenance
it.
Guy.
And he's telling him, oh, no, you went the wrong way. You got to go. He gives them these directions. And then it shows them walk around, and then they like re-encounter this guy.
Just a total circle. Yep. And then I don't think we see a clip from that show at that
Not
point.
really. I think it's just that.
I think next one is they chat about, there's drab, right? The show's drab. Like we're not getting, we need oomph. We need something new. We need like a new piece, whatever. And so they start talking, this sounds like they're talking about like songs they've done in the past. Should they bring something back? And Nigel mentions like, what about Stonehenge? They've got a song about Stonehenge. And like, it's such a banger. Everybody loves it. We know it musically. It's great. And they're like, yeah, but we don't have the piece. We don't have the like set piece for it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not that hard. Ian can get somebody to make it. So he sketches out a single one of Stonehenge and writes next to it quite clearly 18 and a double quote, right? Which means 18 inches. 18 inches he writes. Now he meant
bad British
feet.
guy, I will say.
Yeah, but he writes 18 inches, gives it to Liam, like just have somebody make this. And so we cut to right after that, Ian seeing this little model of the Stonehenge, and actually the I don't know if you know, but the woman, the sculptor who made it is played by Angelica Houston.
I saw her name in the credits. I didn't know where she was. That's good.
Was. So yeah, and then he's just like, okay, so when you make the real one, it'll be just like this, like all these contours and everything. Because like you've really made a very detailed model here. But like when you get the real one done, right, it'll be. And she's like, what are you talking about, real one, Ian? Like this is what I was asked to make. She pulls the napkin out of her purse. Look, it says right here, 18 inches. And he's like, fuck the napkin. What are you talking? Why is I can't just? And he's just like freaking out because they
foiled by his own laziness.
They needed an 18-foot thing.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing to me is that he clearly didn't tell the band, because we then cut to the show where they're all in the hooded robes and they're ready to do the Stonehenge song. They're playing the song to start, and then lowering from behind Nigel is this tiny 18-inch. It hits the ground, and it's like they all start noticing like what it is. And then there's these like little people that they wanted dancing around what would have been the 18-foot tall, set of stones. And instead they're sort of kicking it and like, stepping on it, and it's moving around, and it just ruins the whole thing.
It's crazy. It looks
like, why would they even why would Ian bother with it? And if he was bothering with it, why wouldn't he tell them? It's so incredible.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And then it leads to a great exchange after the show.
Yeah.
And David is saying, like the Stonehenge monument was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf. It tended to understate the hugeness of the object.
And this is the scene where David is now basically telling Ian, like, hey, you need help. You can't do all this on your own.
Yeah.
Janine here is going to help. And he's like, what do you mean help? You mean co-manage the band? And they're like, yeah. And it's like Nigel and Derek are staying kind of quiet about this. I was a little surprised, but I kind of thought Nigel might, fight against this, but he clearly doesn't like Janine. But, David's just being forceful about it, saying, no, this is what's going to happen. Like, this was such a huge screw up. Like, this was not something we can accept. So we're going to bring it. You're going to get some help. You can do this and they can do that. And like, whatever. And he's like, what, her? I can't believe you're talking about her. I never for a moment thought you talk about her. And I love this line. He goes, like, I quit. I am not going to be, replaced by somebody, especially one who dresses like an Australian's nightmare. So it's like, I don't get it, but I like it. I like that line. I'm not sure if there's like a specific reference to Australian folks that I should have like understood in that, but it was just funny.
Yeah. And I wonder if that was like one of his improv lines that they were just like, hey, that doesn't make sense to us either, but your emotion was really funny with that.
Like
so it seems like a thing.
We got to keep the take in because it was so good, but none of us know what you're talking about. He's like, yeah, neither do I. I just said it. Like,
this scene is really funny here and has one of our, I think it's fair to say that he'd be one of your favorites as well, where they go to do a concert on this Air Force base.
Yes.
And they're met by the kind of liaison, whoever's there to greet the band, played by Fred Willard.
The late, great Fred Willard. So wonderful.
Only brings stuff to the table. There's never a movie where it's like, I wish Fred Willard wasn't in it as much.
Right. Yeah. He's the kind of guy that you don't look at any role he played and go, God, you know who would be better in this? Somebody else. But I could point out, if I took the time, I could point out a dozen or 24 roles where I go, you know who would have been great in that? Fred Willard would have been much better doing that role. Pick out a third level supporting character actor from like all kinds of movies, and Fred Willard would have done an amazing job. Anything that requires naively friendly deadpan. I think there's something wonderfully naive and corn-fed and sort of down home about Fred Willard.
It's
we've talked before when we were doing the Happy Gilmore episode. We talked about Modern Family and Julie Bowen, and Fred Willard's character as Ty Burrell's dad, Phil Dunphy's dad, is so funny.
He is so perfect,
and it's
and he just has like a signature style of comedy that works in so many situations, because you kind of know a guy who's a little bit like that. But yeah, his commentary here. So he brings the band in. First of all, I think he calls them Spinal Tarp.
Yeah, Spinal Tarp. Yeah.
He says, he's like, oh, we're a big fan of you. We love your records. We love your concerts. Not you in particular, not you specifically, but just the genre of music that you're a part of.
Right. Just rock music in general. Right? Not metal, not like you don't have, no, just generally, the music's so great. We love music here.
Yeah.
This is our, and I love, he makes a comment.
Addie's weekend.
Yeah. He makes a comment about his hair getting a little bushy. He goes, I better be careful. They might think I'm in the band with you guys.
That has to have been an improv. Like, I feel like
Absolutely.
That line was just, it just so perfect. That made it. And that's one that I do remember when I watched this. I was like, I remember that from the first time.
Nice.
Like that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
So not really their demographic at the Air Force Base though.
No. And they do one of their more vulgar songs. They don't do Big Bottom, but they do Sex Farm, which is like a very vulgar song as well. Doesn't really move the crowd. They don't really get into it.
No. And Nigel, during playing this song, Nigel's amp is like picking up radio chatter or something like that.
We should jump back for a second.
Yeah.
When Marty went over to Nigel's studio and he saw all the guitars, one of the ones Nigel particularly pointed out to him was this one that has, it's a cord to like a transmitter that he can wear on his belt. So it's a wireless guitar, which is like, frankly, the technology is not that great. That's why even today people still generally play wired, instruments on stage. But he had this thing he thought was so cool. And so this is what he brings out at the Air Force gig.
Okay.
And so it's picking up like the bass radio chatter.
Yeah.
So instead of it's like, the whatever receiver has to be on the speakers or on the amp to get the transmission from the guitar is picking up this other stuff. So it's not even the thing that's on him, although Christopher Guest makes this sort of play to make motion towards the receiver thing and kind of, or the transmitter, and like do what's going on with this? But really it would be the other end of it on the amp or speaker. But yeah, it picks up all this chatter about like, whatever a military base would have, for radio chatter. And he just gets so frustrated by it, he slams his guitar onto the stage and just walks off the stage and basically quits the band. Really.
He's done. And he gives a good hard look to Janine on the way out, just to show her, hey, it's partially because of you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks, Yoko.
They have a show. So now she's managing the band.
Right.
They have a show at this amusement park, which really just the name of it, it's called Themeland Amusement Park. I really like that.
Almost positive that's Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. Pretty sure looking at it that's where that was filmed. But yeah, Themeland Amusement Park, and their billing on the marquee is like puppet show and Spinal Tap. And she's like, I told them that has to be puppet show second. Like, but she said, but you have a bigger green room. And David's like, oh, bigger than the puppets, bigger green room. Oh, that's wonderful. Like,
and they don't have Nigel as part of the band. So they're like, David and Derek are kind of talking about, oh, well, we can't do this. That's a Nigel song. We got to cross that off the list. And that's a funny scene of them kind of eliminating songs from their set list.
Because he was the lead guitarist. So
exactly.
It's got to be hard, for lots of songs to not to do it with just the one guitar and the bass. And so they settle on free form improvisational jazz, which, this doesn't really fit their target audience's, tastes necessarily. Yeah. But it's something Derek is very into. And so he's really excited
and
about
it fills a lot of time. So that's big for them.
I did notice David had to throw the shade of announcing to the crowd who was clearly not into it that it's like, he wrote this.
Yes.
This is it. Derek Small's on bass. It's his song.
So I guess we're approaching the final show now.
Exactly. So that Themeland Amusement Park, it was labeled as Stockton, California, but there's no theme park in Stockton. So I guess I think it was filmed in Southern Cal. But now they're at the sort of end of tour. Again, the record label's throwing them a party in Los Angeles. Nigel's not there. It's Derek and David and the other two members. There's a keyboardist and a drummer. Obviously, we haven't really talked much about because we're not in it as much. But they're there, and Marty's there, and whatever.
Mick Shrimpton. I do love the name of the drummer. That's a
Mick
very
Shrimpton.
good fake British guy name.
Very good name, yeah. But basically, a lot of what happens here is David and Derek sitting around talking to each other about, like, you know, this is probably a good thing. Like we're kind of done. You know, we're not going to keep doing this without Nigel. This band doesn't work without him. So, but hey, we're like free to do the other projects we wanted to do. Like, remember we were going to write that Broadway musical about Jack the Ripper called Saucy Jack.
Yes.
Oh, we can do Saucy Jack now. And I love the line at the end. It was like, you know, people really should envy us. I envy us. And David goes, yeah, me too.
Yeah, so they're ready to move on without him, and so they kind of start in front of Nigel meets them backstage before they go out for the show, and there's another kind of sweet moment between Nigel and David of just like,
and they're still pissed at each other.
Do a good show or whatever he says to him.
Yeah, but he tells them because Ian has quit, right? The manager quit, and then Nigel quit. But Nigel is coming as a messenger with a message from Ian that Sex Farm, the song that we heard them play at the Air Force Base, that song has reached number 5 on the radio charts in Japan. It's apparently a huge hit in Japan, and so basically he was like, hey, you know, that's something we could do. But they're kind of like, you know, at first David's like, no, dude, like this is done. You're not coming back to do this. So they go out to get on stage. I don't even know which song they're doing here. They're doing Big Bottom again. I think it's a doubled song, potentially, but they're doing another one. And, you know, Janine is in one off stage, one wing, you know, looking on. And then Nigel comes up and is watching from the other wing. And finally David like notices him. And he, you know, kind of nods, swings his head.
It's kind of funny the way he's gesturing for him to get on stage.
And for whatever reason, Nigel's wireless, guitar is on stage.
Yep.
So he, you know, walks on stage and gets it and hooks the thing on his belt and starts playing. And of course, it fucks up again. It starts playing weird radio chatter. But you know, we still get the sense that this is a reunited, you know, group or whatever. And I believe at that point it actually cuts to a second show, and they're in Japan. It's kind of like a Japanese audience, or is there something in between?
At the very end of this show, I think it shows Mick, the drummer, exploding because it cuts. It cuts then to them in Japan with a different drummer.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
And again, I mentioned it earlier, but I will say credit to this movie. Entire scene in Japan, nothing racist.
Yeah, 100%.
Just Japanese people enjoying the show.
Loving the music, digging it. The band loves them and whatever. And then we get the credits. But we get stuff all through the credits.
Still rolls, yes.
I think the entire credits has more movie.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I wanted to call it, because I loved this, was, I can't remember exactly what he called it, but David is telling Marty about this like book on tape.
The Namesake series.
The Namesake series, right. So it's actors with same last names as famous writers. And so the one that I really loved, because for us, we've had him in so many of our movies, is Denholm Elliott reading T.S. Eliot.
Yes. And does this count as Denholm Elliott being in a movie? Because he's been in 2 of ours so far. He's up there.
2, yeah. I mean, I definitely am going to start pulling some data on the cast of movies we've done to see kind of who actually is like our most, because we know Stephen Tobolowsky's been in several, Denholm Elliott's been in several. I don't think we can count this as an appearance by Denholm Elliott, but it's fun to have a reference to it.
Let's say if he has the same number as somebody else, this will break the tie.
Fair enough. It's a half an appearance for Denholm Elliott.
But yeah, I love that all the post or during the credits interview scene, that was all valuable. It wasn't like throwaway stuff.
And it wasn't bloopers, which, you know, I'm sure there were a lot of bloopers recorded with this style of movie where there's all this improvisation happening and whatever. They had to have tons of stuff that hit the cutting room floor that just kind of wasn't good enough. But that's sort of the thing. It probably wasn't as funny as the stuff that made it into the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was glad they didn't go that route, to have something that was more just like, here's some other little bits that we couldn't really fit into the narrative other places. So let's just add these little bits at the end. That was really smart. And it's just another thing, you know, having movie through the credits is another thing that like probably didn't happen much before this movie. I mean, maybe once or twice, but another kind of groundbreaking choice by Rob Reiner in this movie.
That takes us to the end of the movie. Yeah, like you said, it's not this kind of normal narrative, although at the end now we're back together, we're friends again.
Yep.
Janine's probably still the manager. They didn't really resolve that.
I think we do see Ian at the end. I think he's back with them.
Okay.
I think he and his cricket bat are back, but Janine is also still there. So it's not like David broke up with Janine. That's still going to happen. She's still going to be around. But yeah, we get this concept of David and Nigel having reunited and reconciled, and Ian is back with them because he kind of found the Japan connection for them. So this is keeping them alive.
They found their new audience. I think earlier in the movie there was something where Ian was asked about do you have concerns about the band's like waning popularity? Oh, yeah. Because you went from playing 15,000 seat arenas to playing 1,200 seat theaters. And he's like, it's not really a waning popularity. It's just that our fans are, what was it like? They're more selective.
The appeal has become more selective.
Yes.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Great manager stuff.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing that we didn't mention, one other thing that I just noticed from my notes that I didn't mention, that there's a great scene. One of the few times when Marty sits and interviews Derek by himself, which is not common. He asks him, like, how do you fit into this Nigel, David, dichotomy or whatever? And he's like, well, David is like, fire, or no, like boiling water or no, what did he say? Yeah, he says he's like fire and, Nigel's like ice. So I need to be somewhere in the middle, like lukewarm water. Oh man. Harry Shearer is such a funny guy.
Well, this was solid. This takes us to the end of Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And man, what a fun one. And genre defining, like really important movie.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm glad it exists.
All right, so I'll go ahead and give my take on Spinal Tap here. So, yeah, this movie, again, it defined the genre of the mockumentary, which is something that became pretty popular. It's adjacent in a sense to the horror subgenre of the found footage film. Is like very kind of similar in some ways, and I think possibly it was built off of this. It had its own sort of catalyst film in the 90s with the Blair Witch Project, but like that style of horror film really draws back to the mockumentary in a lot of ways, right? This subverting of the format, by turning fiction into what looks like a nonfiction production, which is great. That also, again, spawned, basically one of the few true like acting troupes in Hollywood motion pictures, right, is this Christopher Guest led group with people like Catherine O'Hara and Fred Willard and Eugene Levy and Ed Begley Jr. and Michael McKean and Harry Shearer and all these people. And it's really impressive group. And they've made such great movies. There's so much about This Is Spinal Tap that, even beyond its own existence as a film, the importance it had, all throughout Hollywood and all throughout movie making. So that having been said, like, I don't think that I would put this on the category of like perfect movie. Like for me, it's too short. I mean, honestly, I wanted more and that's a good thing, but it's also kind of like, man, you could have given me like 10, 15 more minutes of like really good stuff here. I'm sure of it. It is very dated and it's very intentionally like a product of its time, and that's okay. But like, it does mean some of the references and some of the jokes, like you kind of have to have some understanding of how things worked, right? In a different era for the joke to really be funny, but other parts of it just work, period. So yeah, I'm a 4.5 out of 5 on This Is Spinal Tap. It's a fantastic movie. Clearly one of those movies that if you haven't seen it, go out and find it. I'm sure it's streaming someplace. I own a few copies of it on several different media. So, but yeah, this is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. This Is Spinal Tap's a fantastic movie, and I really have high hopes for the sequel as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad that the same people are involved. Yeah. So yeah, being less familiar with this movie going into it, I watched it once. I kind of thought, okay, that was good. But then over the next couple of days, I was thinking about it a lot, and I thought that it really deserved for me to watch it another time before reviewing it, and I'm glad I did, because I think this is one I'll continue to enjoy the more I see it. The influences had on other movies I like is like Can't Go Unspoken For. I did bring up Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, which came out in like 2015. It's an excellent mockumentary that follows a lot of the same beats as Spinal Tap. Joke, and taking advantage of that form. And there's been a few very enjoyable movies with that. Another one I wanted to bring up, which is an actual documentary, but I feel like probably wouldn't have come out if it weren't for this being popular, is a movie called Anvil, The Story of Anvil. And it's this documentary about a kind of aging rock band similar to the vein of Spinal Tap, and they're going on their last tour. They were kind of regionally popular enough that it was their living, and they're kind of putting it back together. Very enjoyable. It's a serious movie. It's not like a comedic one, but I just want to shout that out there because I don't think that would exist if the appetite weren't created by Spinal Tap and other similar things.
Makes sense.
This movie was so much fun. So many good actors in it. I loved how the music sounded.
Yeah.
I do remember when I was a kid, my brother had a copy of the subsequent album, 1992's Break Like the Wind. So I knew Spinal Tap. I knew songs of theirs from that album, which is not the soundtrack album.
No.
So I have this weird Spinal Tap knowledge that doesn't, it's like if you never saw the Ghostbusters movie, but just the cartoon when you were a kid and that was all you knew about it. It's just an odd thing. But man, this one was great and it deserved as a classic. And I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I thought this one was super fun and super funny. I'd definitely watch it again.
Very cool. So that's 8.5 out of 10 for the two of us for This Is Spinal Tap, which actually puts us below the Rotten Tomatoes score, which was astronomical. But I think it's a very appropriate score. And like I said, if you've not seen This Is Spinal Tap, or if you haven't seen it in 15 or more years, like go watch This Is Spinal Tap, the movie. The sequel's coming out. I think it's going to be fun. This one's a lot of fun. So this was my pick, Nick. What do you got for us next? What are we going to watch next week?
Yeah, so I think we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to go to something that's maybe a little more serious, although things I remember about it might not be taken so seriously by us. We're getting into September now, so we all see the Spirit Halloween stores popping up. So I thought maybe I'll give it a hint of spookiness. And this is an actor who we haven't seen yet. I think
that's right. Yeah.
And one of the marquee actors of this era. This is starring Robert De Niro.
Nice.
1991 thriller where he has probably the least De Niro-ish haircut out of any of his other films. We're going to go with Cape Fear.
Very nice.
And I think Cape Fear is important not only as a movie on its own, but there's a great parody Simpsons episode where Sideshow Bob, is kind of the De Niro character. So I think it's worth watching just to understand the Simpsons better.
That's fair. I have not seen Cape Fear, at least not all the way through. I've definitely seen pieces of it. I've seen that Simpsons episode, but this will be good. This will be the first time that I'll ever have sat down and watched Cape Fear beginning to end. So I'm very excited about that. This will be a lot of fun. And it's fun. We're getting close to spooky season. Yeah. And actually, we'll have an announcement after we watch Cape Fear next week. We'll talk a little bit about our plans for the spooky season for October, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So, if you like what you're hearing, everybody out there, please go to Apple, go to Spotify, throw us a 5-star review. It helps people find the show. If you want to send us an email, let us know how we're doing, something we missed, an analysis that you had about a movie, or if you want to suggest one for us to do, you can hit us up at the show at twodads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1. This is Spinal Tap. This has been another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks, everyone.